Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm doing classics with Dad. I have a love-hate relationship with classics, so like there are some classics that I really love that are my favorites that we're both going to mention because one in particular is on my dad's list. But I'm also going to mention classics that I have read and didn't like, but enjoyed the actual storyline or narrative. So these aren't necessarily my top favorites. Some are just honorable mentions of a storyline and narrative that I do love. First up is The Count of Monte Cristo. Now, if you want to know our in-depth thoughts on The Count of Monte Cristo, I'm going to post down in the description box down below. I'm going to link to our last video that we did together, which is the book to movie film adaptations, where we went more into an in-depth review, so to speak, on The Count of Monte Cristo. It is one of my favorite classics. I love the book, I love the movie equally. Even though they are different, it will forever be a favorite of mine. I love the execution of both the book and the movie, the new movie with Jim Caviezel. I love the execution, even though they're both different. Superb, highly recommend. Number 2 for me would be The Phantom of the Opera, written by Gaston Leroux. It has been a while since I dived into The Phantom of the Opera, and I listened to it on audiobook. Now, this was, like, again, in typical classic form and fashion, it's bloated. It was way too long. It could have been pieced down, shortened down. There was a lot of reiterating. For this, before I get into the premise of this, I am going to say that I loved the actual concept of this. I love the storyline and the whole idea of the story is what I love. However, I do not like the execution of how it was done in the book and the movie. The book and the movie for this one are, like before, they're drastically different. But the execution, even in the differences, I didn't like. It is a story revolving around our main character. We have a young Christine Daae. Her father is a famous musician. He passes away, and she is raised in the Paris Opera House with his dying promise of a protective angel of music to guide her. After a time at the Opera House, she begins hearing a voice who eventually teaches her how to sing beautifully. All goes well until Christine's childhood friend Raoul comes to visit his parents, who are patrons of the opera, and he sees Christine when she begins successfully singing on the stage. The voice, who is the deformed, murderous ghost of the Opera House named Eric, however, grows violent in his terrible jealousy until Christine suddenly disappears. The Phantom is in love, but it can only spell disaster. Now, in the premise of this book, it mentions that he is murderous. And in the movie, like, he becomes murderous. I don't think he ever started out that way. He becomes that. Backstory in the book was great. Like it really, the author really dived into exploring that and understanding, a lot of understanding why he is the way he is and how he became deformed. Now in the movie, the little snippets of that, like his backstory was never, you don't know his backstory other than one little snippet, and it was different, completely different than in the book. And I like the book's version better when it comes to his backstory. What I did not like about the movie was that he was not even really deformed in the movie. It was like when you did see him, it was like, really? That is it? No, the book did it justice in the descriptions. In this, it was like, he is not deformed. He is, like, to me, it was like this scar, masculine scar that didn't even, it was like half his face. It wasn't even half his face. It was like a little smit, like a little.
Scars are masculine.
Yeah, like a lot of men can have scars, and it's actually it's attractive. It's not like deformed.
All right, let's stay focused here.
I'm just saying, he's not a monster. Like, the way the story makes him sound, like his deformity makes him monstrous. I did not like the execution of the movie. I loved the, you know, the expression of the emotion through the music. I loved the actors. They did a fantastic job in the movie for what the movie portrayed and what it was. I do appreciate that. And Gerard Butler, that man can sing. And I had no idea. I was surprised.
It's a musical?
Yeah, it's a musical.
I think I saw the old there was like a 1940s version.
Oh, I'm talking about the new version with
that.
Gerard Butler. Y'all, Gerard Butler can sing. So I was impressed with him. I think he did a great job at capturing the character for what the movie's version of the story was. So I will say that. But the actual execution of his backstory, I didn't like. I wanted more of his backstory incorporated. That's all that's really my 2 cents there. Up next is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So the premise of this is, last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. ... Ancient, beautiful Manderley. Between the rose garden and the sea is the county showpiece. Rebecca made it so. Even a year after her death, Rebecca's influence still rules there. How can Maxim D. Winter's shy new bride ever fill her place or escape her vital shadow? So we are following this very rich man. He is a widower, and you know, his late wife, her name was Rebecca. Now, he ends up becoming engaged. He goes on this vacation of sorts, meets this young woman, and becomes engaged to her and marries her after a very, very, very short courtship. It is so short. It's like a blink of an eye and they're married. And during this time frame as well, it's like this young girl, she's naive, she's innocently naive, and they don't know anything about each other. She does not know about his past and what happened to Rebecca. Like, he keeps that zipped and stuffed. He is not revealing anything. She is like trying to fit this image in this new position of like a new wife, but at the same time she comes, like, he takes her to her, like, his estate, which is Manderley Bay, and she is literally now fitting in the same role as Rebecca. And it has this, the one thing I did like about this was that it's the gothic feel, right? It's the gothic feel of the story.
Yeah, it's good atmospheric.
It is atmospheric. Well, the storyline makes it, like, the actual writing didn't capture the atmosphere for me. It like hit it in some areas, but then it went downhill and kind of wandered off. But
Rebecca's shadows over everything.
She is living in the shadow of his late wife Rebecca. And it sounds like Rebecca is, like, in the premise and in the story, you're not sure if it's going to take a paranormal turn, and a part of me wishes it would have gone that way, because it makes it, with the gothic feel of it makes it sound like Rebecca's ghost. Like, in essence, she is living in her shadow. She is, like, her ghost is everywhere, so to speak, not in the literal sense. But her ghost she is like haunting every piece of this estate. She is literally everywhere. However, this was so long. Typical classic. It was the audiobook I listened to, okay?
What I remember about that is she said, I just went through 15 hours for that, like for the last half hour. Did you like the last 20 minutes or something?
It was like 10 hours longer. I don't remember how long the audiobook was. The majority of this audiobook, and it was like 10 plus hours of the same thing. It's like deja vu, different day. The same conversations, the same thing. You have a bunch of rich people having the same conversations day to day to day, with like little snippets of hauntings, so to speak, of Rebecca haunting her, little gothic feelings of Rebecca coming in. It wasn't until the end, it was like the last 40 minutes of this audiobook, where the mystery, because this is a mystery, y'all, okay? But you don't even feel the mystery or the excitement. No excitement happened until the last 40 minutes of this book, of this audio. And that is where I liked it. I'm like, wow, it took 14 hours to get here.
Was it worth it?
No.
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 Okay, all right.
Are you kidding?
All right.
If there was an abridged version, it would have been worth it. But this was not the abridged version. This was the full shebang, okay? And I watched the movie too. I watched the Hitchcock movie, and I will say, if you're going to do this story, like, if you don't mind classic writing, obviously read it. But if you're interested in the actual storyline, I would say watch the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
There's a few movies that were done on that. I think the Hitchcock movie was, I think Cary Grant, I think, I could be wrong there. Cary Grant may have been the main character, another Laurence Olivier, and I think Jeremy Britt did one as well. So you may want to just start with the movie.
I would say watch the film, at least watch the film first. Up next, I'm going to be talking about Sherlock Holmes and Edgar Allan Poe. Now, I grew up reading the Sherlock Holmes stories, short stories, and Edgar Allan Poe short stories. The Raven was the only poem from Edgar Allan Poe that I am familiar with, because I enjoyed more of the stories. I didn't really dive into his poetry.
A quick tidbit on that.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Ravens are called the Ravens because Edgar Allan Poe actually lived in the city of Baltimore.
And there's the Poe House in Baltimore City.
And there's Poe House, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Poe House. When it comes to, because we're talking about Poe already, I'm going to read off some of the short stories that I enjoyed as a kid, because I read this growing up with Dad. Sherlock Holmes and Poe both, I'm familiar with their stories. Here are some of them. Some of the short stories I remember from Poe that I loved was The Telltale Heart, The Black Cat, The Cask of Amontillado, The Fall of the House of Usher, Mask of the Red Death. Those are the ones that I remember that I enjoyed. I think next month for October, I would like to get myself a copy, if I can find a good used copy from a bookstore, a book on, like on Goodreads, I'm looking at The Telltale Heart and other writings. So like if I can find that, or something that has his poems and short stories in it, I would like to get that and start reading his works. For Sherlock Holmes, the ones just off the top of my head, obviously The Hound of the Baskervilles and I believe The Study in Scarlet are the two that I remember. I read more, but off the top of my head, those are the two ones that stick out the most. And of course, I love The Hound of the Baskervilles. That was one of my favorites as a kid.
With Holmes, I would recommend, if you're just getting into Holmes, my favorite is The Speckled Band.
Yeah.
Short story. You got a number of ways of doing this. You could read the short story. You could go to YouTube and just punch in Sherlock Holmes audio book, and like 77 videos are going to come up. The narration is really good. All the short stories, some of the novels, but The Speckled Band, I won't even tell you what it's about. But Jeremy Britt, if you want to see it instead of reading it or listen to it, Jeremy Britt, late 80s, early 90s, for Granada Television. Mm-hmm. It's about 50 minutes long. He did like 40 to 50 of these short stories. The Speckled Band. I mean, it's edge of the sea, palm sweating stuff. Highly recommend it. Yeah, that's my Holmes recommendation.
Speckled Band.
Speckled Band, yeah.
Got it. Number 5 pick that I'm going to be talking about is, of course, Agatha Christie.
Ah, yeah.
We got Agatha Christie on here, of course. So my main one for Agatha Christie would be A Murder on the Orient Express. Now, I'm recommending the film. Of course, we have the new I guess like reenactments with the guy who's
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah as Poirot. We've had several.
David Suchet is the famous Poirot. He was cast as Poirot, so he did a lot of these. He did all of them over a 20-year period or so. But I think he might be the one who did the film that you saw. I'm not sure.
I'll insert
Yeah.
the actor here and his name here. But he does a fantastic job at being Poirot. I think Murder on the Orient Express has been the best one out of the 3 that they've made so far. Well, I can't say that because I haven't seen the recent one, the 3rd one. But Murder on the Orient Express was my first introduction to Agatha Christie as a kid, remember? Yeah, film-wise, I think, yeah. So I saw the film, and I got it right. I guessed right. I guessed the mystery, and you were shocked.
Yeah, don't give anything away.
I'm not, but he was shocked. So after watching that and getting my first, like, kind of dip into Agatha Christie as a kid, I read, and then there were none. And those were my 2 top favorites from Agatha Christie. So those are the 2 that I would recommend right off the bat.
Okay.
Yep. Anything you want to add?
No, of course, and then There Were None has a number of films. But it's all good. I mean, really good.
Agatha Christie.
It's Christie. So.
It's Agatha Christie,
Yeah.
top notch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now on to my dad's picks. First up is Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. The novel was written in 1811.
6 major novels from Jane Austen, born 1775. I think she died 1817, about 42 years old, died of Addison's disease. They didn't know what it was at the time. Persuasion is my personal favorite. Sense and Sensibility has a special place in my heart. At first,
Yeah.
I heard about Jane Austen. I was like, this is chick flick lit,
Yes, it is.
movies and that kind of stuff. But I saw the Emma Thompson 1995 film. Highly recommended. If you love Austen, never seen this, I recommend that. If you've never read Austen, I recommend that film. And it was about Willoughby. This guy was put in a situation, he involved in this family, and I asked myself, what could he have done? What could Willoughby have done? He wasn't a libertine, he wasn't a rogue, but he was a rascal. Okay, let's say what it was. But I said, what could he really have done? He was upper middle class. They weren't trained to do anything else, and he's losing his estate and all this stuff. What could he have done when he fell in love with Marianne? Did he fall in love with her? It's good. It's good. So Sense and Sensibility would be my recommendation. A lot of films start with a film. S tier, superior. The book, I'd put A grade, but I would recommend maybe start with the film.
Next up, The Hobbit, of course, by Tolkien. The novel was written in 1937. And I am going to say this one I did love. I loved The Hobbit. It's one of my favorites. I read this novel when I was a kid, so it's been a long time, but I remember I really loved it.
J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation to intro someone into Tolkien. So if you've never read Tolkien, you've seen the movie, maybe read The Hobbit. It's great. It's not just children's literature. People love this as adults. He wrote this for his children. He wrote a lot of stories for his children. And then it got published in 1937. So I recommend the book, S tier, superior, great. The movies, did not like the movies as much as Lord of the Rings movies. Superior, S grade. I put the movies maybe A to B. I like them. I really like them, but nothing compares to Lord of the Rings. But that's a way maybe you can get into Tolkien through The Hobbit. It's great. It's Bilbo Baggins. What else can you say?
Next is Watership Down by Richard Adams. Now, this is one of my favorites as well. This is a middle grade classic.
Right. I didn't read this as a kid. She didn't either. As adults, we came to this. I came to it first, and then I think I recommend to you. I think.
Yeah, I have written down, this novel was written in 1972. Yeah, and I read this when I was a kid. And
oh, you did? Maybe.
Yeah, no. I think I read this when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And
you read it first, yeah.
Loved this. I love this, and it's an England setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise really of this is we're following a warren of rabbits, and they become under attack, right?
Yeah, it's industrialization. You got a warren. I don't know how many rabbits. You could have 50, have 100 under the ground. And
I'm talking about an attack from another warren. Or is that later?
That might be later. Yeah, you're right.
They have to move.
But they have to move because they're plowing the field, and a lot of in this warren, they're kind of putting their heads in the sands. They don't want to face the fact that their world is changing. But these these few, I don't know, maybe 10 or a dozen, they decide, it's like one of those rabbits are like a prophet.
Yeah.
He's talking, he's saying they're coming, they're coming. And when it came, they didn't want to realize it. He took about 10 and they went, and it's the story of the adventure of what they had.
You go on this adventure with these rabbits, and then they have to go up against another warren, and
man.
that's like, it's so intense.
It's great.
It's
great.
intense. The fight scenes, the action, you get into the minds of these rabbits and what they're up against. And after I read this, I don't look at rabbits the same.
You can't.
I love
the way
them.
they live and the things they do. Yeah.
Yes, I fell in love with this story. I fell in love with this, and when they become they have to fight another warren, and some get trapped, and how they get out, you think it's impossible. It's like all the odds are against them. It is an incredible action war story as well, and it is great. Now, there is a film for this. I never watched that. I think it's animated. It's an animated.
I saw it. It was okay. I thought the difficult parts they did in a certain way that where maybe, I don't know the age that you could watch it, but for me, I would never go back there. I would reread this. Yeah. I'd go right to the book. Go to the book.
Go to the.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic
Yeah,
story.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it's been so long since I read this, but one of the character names, his name is Bigwig. Bigwig is the warrior rabbit. He's like the fighter. And there are several action scenes with Bigwig in this. Yeah. It's great. Highly recommend. The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth
Graham.
I think
right.
Kenneth Graham. Written in 1908.
I never heard of this story until I was an adult. A lot of things I didn't come to until I was an adult. And a few years ago, I think I may have heard about it years ago, but I didn't read the book or watch the movie until maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Remember I showed you the movie.
Well, that's not true, because when I was a kid,
Oh, did I?
you showed me this.
Oh, maybe
Well,
I did. But I never.
Yeah.
I don't think I read it. So
Well, seeing it, I think I remember getting the book, like picking it up, and like as a kid, you got it from me at the library, or we got it from one of my book fairs. Remember the book fairs we used to have at the school?
Yeah. So maybe
God,
I
back
don't
in the
even
day,
remember
we
it.
used to have books. That was like one of the best things I looked forward to. I think it was in the fall. I was like, book fair.
The whole story's, the main character is the river. It's the English countryside. There is a river winding its way through, and it's about animals. It's about toad and ratty and mole and badger. People grew up on this before the films. This was, in a sense, their main book. It was their Narnia book, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I came to it as an adult, and a few years ago, I saw the movie. There's different movies. Here's what I would recommend. It's about their adventures in and around this river. It's really good. There was a movie, I'm trying to get the date, 1995. That's the one I'm recommending because there's different ones. It's a cartoon. It starts off, the first 2 minutes, it's not a cartoon, but if you punch in YouTube 1995, Wind in the Willows, Vanessa Redgrave, they're on a boat and they're just cruising down a river. And she opens up and she starts to tell the story about this. And then it goes into the cartoon.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's well done. It's really good.
It's like comfort.
It is.
It's one of those cozy,
It
it's a
is.
cozy, warm story. Kind of like Winnie the Pooh. It's the same feeling
It's like
I get
Pooh
with
Bear.
Winnie Pooh Bear.
So I started with the film, then I read the book. For me, I like the film better. That's just me personally.
A few years back, or it was a few years, I think you and I
We watched it. I showed you.
Watched
We
it
watched
together,
it. So that's Wind in the Willows. Yeah.
We have an honorable mention.
Honorable mention would be, look, there's a lot of classics, but this came to my mind, The Maltese Falcon.
Talks about this often.
Okay, so this was written published in 1930, Dashiell Hammett. The book is outstanding. It's film noir, Noir. So it's about a private investigator, Humphrey Bogart, 1941. You can watch this. It's great. The book is S tier. This movie is S tier. They're superior. Bogart his character is Sam Spade, private investigator. He didn't get along with the police. Police didn't get along with him. This whole thing, the Maltese Falcon, dates back to like the 1500s. Pirates were involved. It is a black falcon bird. It's not real. It's a statue about a foot high. But underneath that veneer, pure gold, encrusted with jewels. And so it's about a fat man named, I think in real life his name's Greenstreet. It's about
a fat man.
Pete or Lori. So
Lori,
it's
yeah,
about those two
Lori.
and a muscle guy. They're going from continent to continent trying to find this Maltese falcon. Anything it takes to get this falcon because it's worth umpteen dollars.
Yeah.
And somehow, I won't give it away, it comes into the possession of Sam Spade, Humphrey Bogart's character. And he gets involved with these characters. It's one's trying to con the other, deceit, who can you trust? There's a woman involved. It's great. Highly recommended. The book is not that long. You could start with a book and then you could go to the movie, but if you want to go to the movie, 1941, make sure you see the one with Humphrey Bogart, The Maltese Falcon.
Watch list. Since it's one of my dad's favorites, I'm going to have to add it to the watch list and watch it with you. All right, y'all. Those are our picks, our classics. Let me know down in the comments below if you love any of these classics and what classics you choose. What are some of your favorites? I'd love to know. If you like this video, give me that thumbs up and don't forget to smash that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming bookish content. And as always, happy reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Are we doing the thumbnail?
Have it like this, and I'll put some of the classics, and I'll kind of have.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay. My hand's kind of tilted. My finger's crooked.
Okay, I'll put mine on top.
Like this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good.
Are you gonna smile?
Oh yeah.
Put your...
Am I just smiling the whole way through?
Whatever you want to do.
All right. My chin's itching here. Okay, here we go. You playing games right now? Because my eye's burning. Do we have to go this long?